Hello everyone, I Kuldeep Sharma welcome you all to today's session of Daily News Analysis, where we are going to look at the most important news headlines from the Hindu newspaper as well as the Indian Express. But before I begin with today's analysis, let's look at the comment box from our previous class. So the one question which I asked you in my previous class was, who is the present president of Albania? And his name is Bajram Begak. Bajram Begak is the president of Albania. Another question which I asked you was with regard to this Albania news only, that Albania and Italy have entered into a deal where Italy is going to send the migrants who have come for their refuge to Albania, and Albania is going to settle them till Italy process their refugee request or their asylum request. And I asked you which was the other country or which are the other two countries which had a similar kind of arrangement. So the answer for that was Rwanda and UK, United Kingdom. So they also had a similar kind of agreement which was signed last year only. Third question which I asked you was in which particular, not the date, but in which particular year India recognized the state of Israel as a sovereign country. So Israel was one of the few countries which recognized Israel in its initial year of formation only, and this Israel state came in the year 1948. We became independent in 47, and India recognized Israel in the year 1950 year itself. So I gave you a hint also, if I remember correctly, that it was during the tenure of Jawaharlal Nehru, and Jawaharlal Nehru in the year 1950 itself, before we became a republic, recognized the state of Israel. Next question which I asked you was, what was the year in which India recognized the state of Palestine? So Palestine was recognized by India in the year 1988. So Palestine the current Palestine state came into recognition or came into existence in the year 1988, and India was one of the initial countries which also recognized the state of Palestine very early. So these were the question, and then some comments are there, some questions are there in the comment box regarding the news analysis. So one question, one suggestion which I have received is, can we change the newspaper analysis timing to morning or in somewhere in afternoon? So usually we do it at 6:30, and she has one of the student has recommended that can we shift it to the initial hours. So because of the schedule of the CLAT PREP Institute, because we have classes, it is not possible for us to do it in the morning. Second thing is that we wait for all the news to come up. We have to do not just one newspaper but two newspapers, and we want to do a proper analysis kind of sort of these newspaper, and not just want to go through the newspaper and just to tell you that how you have to read it, what you have to read it. I know you are smart enough to do it on your own. So again, our advice would be that as soon as you get your newspaper, do a reading on your own, and once you have read it, then come to this analysis and try to find notes out of it. So that's why we have decided to have it in evening only, so that students, once they are done with their classes, once they are done with their whatever their daily schedules are there, if they are going to schools, once they are done with the schooling also, then they can come home and then go through the newspaper analysis to get an idea whether whatever they have read was of use or not. What are the important points from this particular newspaper? What were the points which are not that important for us? So that's why we have decided to keep it at this particular time only. One of the students has asked me, and I would say an English question, what is the difference between commission and commitment? So my advice would be, you can ask your English teacher. My limited knowledge of English, if I can serve you with that. The difference between commission and commitment is basically both are two different noun forms. Commission is usually used when I am doing some act, and commitment is basically when I am promised to do something. So I wouldn't say they can be used interchangeably also. For example, one of their verb form would be commit only. So commission would be to commit a crime, and commitment would be I commit to you. So I promise to you that I'm going to do this or that. Okay, so that is the only difference I can found as my English serves me. And another suggestion that we should have a MIT on budget. So I've already told you that we are going to have a MIT on budget. I was waiting for the government to come up with the name of the schemes which have been announced in this particular budget, because I can tell you what for example, there are 5 schemes related to employment. I can tell you that these were the schemes. X scheme is there which is going to have these provisions, but I don't know what is the name of that particular scheme. So we can wait for the schemes names to come up, and then we can have a MIT on budget. Okay, so these were the suggestions and questions from the comment box. So again, my reminder to you all, please answer the question which I asked you in the news analysis in the comment section, and as well as if possible, try to give us feedback and your doubts and opinions also. So the first news which I selected to do in this particular news is regarding the update with regard to Gaganyaan mission. So I hope you are aware that in the beginning of this year, 4 astronauts were designated which were going to be part of the Gaganyaan mission, and now a new update has come up which is regarding that 2 of these astronauts are going to the International Space Station on an Axiom ship. Axiom ship is basically it's a private company which sends private spacecraft to the International Space Station. And what is this International Space Station? So it is a space observatory where scientists and other astronauts go there and do some certain experiments. So these 2 astronauts designated for Gaganyaan mission are going to go and participate in this Axiom 4 mission, and this is going to help them to be ready for the Gaganyaan mission to be launched next year. So who are these 2 persons? Who are these 2 group captains who are being sent for this Axiom 4 mission? So by the name Axiom 4, so Axiom is a company, it's a private space company which sends astronaut to space on behalf of NASA. So this is the 4th mission by this private company, and 2 astronauts which are going to go, or 2 astronaut designated which are going to go, are group captain Shubhanshu Shukla and group captain Prashant Balakrishnan Nayak. So these are the 2 who have been selected for the Axiom 4 mission. The other 2 persons apart from these 2 who are going to be the 4 astronauts going for the Gaganyaan mission are your Ajit Krishnan and group captain Angad Pratap. So you need to remember the name of all the 4 persons. So 4 astronaut designate, and you should also know which are the 2 which are going for the Axiom 4 mission. Okay, and exactly some factual data regarding Gaganyaan mission. So you might now already know this particular facts. So this is a ISRO mission, and where we are going to send these persons. So we are going to send them 400 kilometers above the Earth's surface for 3 days. So this particular Gaganyaan ship is going to be there in the low Earth orbit at an altitude of 400 kilometer, and they are going to be there for 3 days. They are going to take continuous rotation of the Earth's surface, and they are going to do certain experiments also at that place. And if this Gaganyaan mission becomes successful, India is going to become the 4th country. India is going to become the 4th country to have this particular mission. The other 3 countries which have already sent humans into space on their own are your USSR, US, and China, and in this particular order only. I hope you are aware that USSR or Soviet Union was the first country to send an animal into space, and then finally a human into space also. So one thing which you can do is to write down in the comment box who was the first astronaut or first person to go into space. First person in the world to go into space, first astronaut to go into space. And second thing you can mention is who was the first Indian to go into space. So tell me the first person in the world who went into space and who was the first Indian to go into space. So another good news. Next point which you should know regarding Gaganyaan mission is which spacecraft or which rocket are we going to use to send these people into the space orbit. So we are going to use the GSLV Mk3, which is also known as LVM3. LVM3 is the other name for GSLV Mk3, and it is the most powerful rocket. It is the most powerful rocket of the ISRO, and this rocket is going to be used to send these astronauts into space. Okay, so remember the name of the 4 astronauts as well as the 2 astronauts who have been shortlisted for the Axiom 4 mission. Moving on to the next news, the Supreme Court has puts government on deadline to overhaul NEET UG. So I am sure you are aware that there were many discrepancies in the conduct of the NEET examination, which is basically your medical entrance examination, and there were also allegations of discrepancies in other entrance examination also. For example, your UGC NET examination, and because of this, that examination was also postponed. So because of this, the Supreme Court was hearing these cases, and the Supreme Court has said that it has to overhaul the whole of the system of conduction of this NEET UG, as well as it has criticized the conduct of the NTA, that it should have been clear from point one. It has been doing flip-flops. One day it was saying one thing in the court, other day it was saying another thing. So because of this, now the Supreme Court has finally asked the government to overhaul the NEET UG system. If any changes is required for changing the NT also, that should also be done. And for this particular thing, they had created a committee. So a committee was created. a committee has been created, and this committee to overhaul the NEET UG as well as to change the National Testing Agency is being headed by former ISRO chairman, and his name is K. Radhakrishnan. So you should know the name of this committee also. So if I ask you which committee or who is the committee head which has been created specifically to suggest changes in the NEET UG examination or in the National Testing Agency, so you should remember it is K. Radhakrishnan, who is a former chairperson of ISRO. Now you should know certain facts about this National Testing Agency, because it is the nodal agency for conducting of most of your entrance examination, most of your college level entrance examination. For example, NEET is conducted by this particular organization as well as your UGC NET. And there are many other examinations which are being conducted by this particular body only. So this particular body came in the year 2017. So it was established in the year 2017. Before NTA came into existence, all of these examinations were conducted by different organizations or different bodies. But now NTA is going to hold these kind of examination. Next, what is the nature of this particular body? So this particular body is a society. Rather than calling it a statutory body, we can call it as a society which is registered under the Indian Society Registration Act of 1860. Third point is, what is the nature of this particular body? So it is an autonomous and self-sustained. What is the meaning of self-sustained? That it is not going to get any funding. No funding from the government. For example, if it is conducting the NEET UG examination, then it is going to charge fees from the students. It's going to charge a certain amount from the student for conducting of that examination, and on the basis of that particular revenue, it is going to conduct those examinations. So self-sustained basically means that it is not going to get any funding from the government. So this can also come as a statement form also. Okay, so it is an autonomous and self-sustained testing organization to conduct entrance examination for admission in higher educational institution. So remember, after 12th, what examinations are there for your entrance, for your entry into higher education institutions? It is going to conduct the same. Luckily for you, your CLAT examination is not conducted. CLAT examination is not conducted by NTA as of now, and it is conducted by whom? You have to tell me in the comment box. So which authority or which particular organization is responsible for conduct of CLAT 2025? Okay, next is what is the composition of this particular NTA? So NTA is chaired by an eminent educational appointed by the Ministry of Education. So it is not necessary that he should be some political appointee, or he should be someone who is into bureaucracy, basically an IAS IPS officer, but he can be any person. He should be an educationist, and he is to be appointed by the Ministry of Education. Finally, it has a corporate like structure. The CEO will be the Director General to be appointed by the government. So there would be a CEO, Central Executive Officer. So just like we have a head who is responsible for all the administrative activities in a company, similarly here also we are going to appoint a Chief Executive Officer who is going to be responsible for the administrative works of this particular NTA body. Okay, so these are some important facts regarding NTA, and apart from it, you should know the name of the committee or the committee head who is going to suggest changes in the NEET examination as well as NTA. It is K. Radhakrishnan. Okay, moving on to the next news. So next news is that it has been reported that 72% of personal income tax payers opted for new tax regime in 23-24. So what is this new tax regime? So in the budget of 2023, the Finance Ministry came up with a new tax regime, which means it is your option how you want to fill your personal income tax. So there were two options provided to you. So there was an old system which is known as old tax regime, and now a new system was created known as new tax regime. So if in a single line, if I have to make you understand what is the main difference between these two. So in the new tax regime, so in the old tax regime, there were your tax slabs, there was different tax slabs, and there were many kind of deductions allowed under the Income Tax Act. Deductions were allowed. For example, you could have deduction in your income tax liability by claiming house rent allowance or your travel allowance. So these were some of the exemption. For example, if your house rent was, let's say, 20,000, then you can deduct that particular amount from your income tax liability and you don't have to pay tax on that particular amount. However, in the new tax regime, what the government did was that it increased the tax slab liability. For example, in the old tax regime, your liability started from 2.5 lakhs, but in the new tax regime, it started from 3 lakhs rupees. So if you had opted for 3 lakhs, if you have opted for the new tax regime, your tax liability would begin only at 3 lakhs rupees rather than on 2.5 lakhs, 5 lakh rupees. But at the same time, you won't be getting any benefit of the deduction. Okay, so that is the main crux of the old tax regime and new tax regime. And recently, it has been reported that 72% of people who have just joined the tax regime, they have opted for the new tax regime because the government wants that more people should shift to a new tax regime, which is a simpler thing. It is simpler because the tax slabs have been reduced. So earlier we used to have 6 to 7 slabs, but now we have reduced it to 3 to 4. So the tax structure or tax filing is getting easier in the new tax regime, and some benefits which were there in the old tax regime are also being included in the new tax regime also. For example, in this particular budget, they've increased the income tax slab irrespective of the old tax regime or the new tax regime, which means there is an exemption for 3 lakh up to 3 lakh in the old tax regime also, as well as in the new tax regime also. However, they've increased the standard deduction from 50,000 to 75,000 in the new tax regime. So I can tell you more details about what all addition have been done in this particular budget, but I don't think they are required here. When we do this MIT on budget, there I am going to tell you those standard deductions also. However, a disclaimer would be, usually these kind of questions do not come into your exam. So if you are not able to remember these factual data, it is no harm. What factual data is important for you, we are going to specifically tell you when the time comes. Okay, so wait for those exams. In any case, if you want to take a screenshot, you can take a screenshot and do a reading of this thing. Also, you can pause the video and read it. Ki what exactly is old tax regime and new tax regime, but what explanation I've given you is the only explanation which is required for you. So the next news which we are going to do is one this regarding a particular motion being moved against the Home Minister of India, Amit Shah, by the Congress party. And what Congress has done, the Congress has moved a privilege motion. So it is related to our previous class recording only, where I discussed parliamentary privileges. So what are parliamentary privileges? So your member of parliaments and your house collectively has been provided with certain parliamentary privileges. For example, one of the parliamentary privileges that your member of parliaments has freedom of speech and expression. They have this freedom of speech and expression inside the house. And one such privilege, apart from many other privilege, one such privilege on the basis of which this privilege motion has been what? That if any member feels that any other member has made a false statement, for example, gumrah kiya gaya hai, false statement, someone has made a false statement in the house, then it is a breach of parliamentary privilege. Okay, so in this particular case, because Amit Shah made a statement regarding Wayanad, and he stated that the Home Ministry or the central government had sent a warning to the Kerala on July 23rd regarding any such kind of incident can happen. It was found to be a false statement as per newspaper reportings, and one member of the Congress has moved a privilege motion asking that there should be an action against Amit Shah because he has provided a false statement, he has said a false statement. So if the Lok Sabha Speaker accept this particular motion or the Rajya Sabha Chairman accept this motion, then a particular committee is set up in this particular case and they try to find out whether this particular action has been done deliberately. And in case this particular statement or if this particular allegation is found to be true, the Lok Sabha Speaker or the Rajya Sabha Chairman also has the power to disqualify a particular person from this particular place, and they can also take any other action against that person also. So this is the context of this news. So if you want to know more about parliamentary privileges, my advice would be that you should go through the 1st August of your news analysis also. Okay. Moving on to the next news, center issues draft notification on eco-sensitive areas in Western Ghats. So your Western Ghats is your is a long mountain range in your south of India. So if this is the India map, your Western Ghats is a continuous line of mountains on the western coast of India. That's why the name Western Ghats. These Western Ghats are known by many other names in locally also, but one of the name is your Sahedari. Sahedari is another name for Western Ghats. So what you can do in comment boxes, you can tell me, you can find out and tell in the comment box what are the different names by which Western Ghats are known in all of India. Okay, so it's a mountain range in your south of India, majorly at the western coast, and it's stretched to 1600 kilometers. Moreover, you should know which are the state in which these Western Ghats are located. So Western Ghats are located in 6 states. So it's a continuous mountain range starting from the state of Gujarat, going into Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Kerala, and finally Tamil Nadu. So starting from your Gujarat, it goes up to Tamil Nadu and your Kerala also. And Wayanad, where this particular tragedy of landslide took place, is also part of Kerala, and it is also part of the Western Ghats. So recently, or not recently, but since 2010, and this particular ask to declare this Western Ghats has been going on since the 1970s. So in the year 2011, your government created a committee known as Gadgil Committee. So in 2011, a Gadgil Committee was recommended regarding what part of Western Ghats should be declared as eco-sensitive area. And what is a eco-sensitive area? So it's a ecologically fragile region. It's an ecologically fragile region, and where as per ecologists, these eco-fragile regions should be out of purview of any kind of developmental activities. So in the eco-sensitive areas, major activities like mining, quarrying, sand mining, etc. should not be allowed. No major infrastructure project should also be constructed in this area unless a proper environmental panel is formed, and then if it allows to do it, then only you should do it. So a particular committee was created in 2011 regarding what part of Western Ghats should be declared as eco-sensitive area. The first such committee was the Gadgil Committee, which was created in 2011, and interestingly, it asked that all of Western Ghats, so whatever this 1600 kilometers stretch, all of it, and it covers around 160,000 kilometers, a square kilometer area, that the whole of Western Ghats should be declared as a eco-sensitive area. The whole of it should be declared as eco-sensitive area. So obviously, because it constitutes a very large part of these 6 states, many of the states protested against this particular recommendation, and they said that the central government should not accept this recommendation and should create another committee. So this particular committee also divided in 1, 2, 3, but this particular committee's recommendation was not accepted. And next, it created another committee again under the former ISRO chief Kasturi Rangan. So Kasturi Rangan committee in 2013 was created, and now it reduced the area, and as per this particular committee, 37% of the Western Ghats should be declared as eco-sensitive areas. Okay. Moreover, Kasturi Rangan committee also asked the states to prepare its own eco-sensitive area and submit it, and Kerala was one of the states to submit its first own eco-sensitive area. However, it said that there should be a complete ban on mining in ESA. So this 37% area of Western Ghats, once it is declared as eco-sensitive, if any earlier mining activity was going on, still that should be stopped, because the impact of such mining activity is going to be huge on this eco-sensitive area. However, there was still doubts regarding this particular committee, and many states protested against the area which it has declared part of 37% and as ESA. So again, it was stalled. This process was stalled. Finally, another committee was created in the year 2020. So the most recent committee. So you can write down this particular name, because you are not going to find this name. Sanjay Kumar Committee is the committee which has been created to again demarcate the eco-sensitive area in the Western Ghats, and its report is yet to be submitted. So this particular news is regarding that only. So the central government has been notifying different districts, different regions of these particular states as eco-sensitive areas, but all of these are only drafts only. So draft basically means it is not final. There can also be changes right now. So again, this was a 6th draft in the last 10 years, and not all of the states have been agreeing to whatever regions they are calling it. Probably we are going to learn from this particular tragedy, and we are going to finalize the eco-sensitive area now. Okay, so this is regarding the eco-sensitive region. Moving on to the next news. So next news is quid pro quo via poll bonds are assumption for now. So recently there was a petition in the Supreme Court asking to form a particular committee which is going to investigate which are the political parties which have received the amount and which particular donor has donated that amount to the other political parties. So regarding this particular petition was dismissed. These allegations were dismissed, and the court said that we have already provided enough data. We have already asked SBI to provide reports for the electoral bond schemes, and if anything more would be required, we are going to do it suo moto. So this petition was dismissed. So because we have not covered electoral bonds for a very long time, let's go through it again so that some students who have joined us later on, they can also benefit. So what are electoral bonds? So electoral bonds is a type of a bond. And what are bonds? So bonds are your money instrument. So bond, you can, a simple explanation for a bond would be just like you take a loan. Let's say you have gone to a bank and you have taken a loan. Bonds are a similar kind of instrument. So you go to a bank, you take a bond from it. You take a bond from them. So a bond is basically that it is a receipt. It is a receipt that you have taken a loan of some amount. For example, if you have taken a bond of 1 lakh, I can say that you have taken a loan of 1 lakh rupees. Now what you are going to do, you are going to give this loan to a second person. So let's say you take this bond and you submit it to the political party. You give this particular bond to a political party. So because now the political party has this bond, it can go to the bank and encash this particular loan of 1 lakh rupees. Okay. So this particular scheme was launched in 2018 by your budget of 2018. So in the 17-18 budget, this particular scheme was launched in 2018. It was said that it is going to cleanse the electoral system. It is going to clean the political funding system of India. And how it's going to boil? Because all of the money which is going to come from the banks is going to be a white money. There won't be any involvement of black money. However, there were allegations that it is a very intransparent, it's a very non-transparent system, and many quid pro quo can happen because of this particular system. For example, let's say I am a particular company, and because my identity is not known. For example, let's say I've donated 1 crore or 2 crore rupees to a political party, but my identity is kept secret if I am donating my electoral bond. Let's say that political party to which I have donated, it has come to power, and now it has provided me with a particular contract by which I am going to earn 5-7 crore rupees. So this particular quid pro quo is not visible in this particular case. That's why the Supreme Court in 2024 in this particular case, ADR, Association for Democratic Rights versus Union of India, a 2024 case, held this particular scheme to be unconstitutional. So this particular scheme was held to be unconstitutional in ADR versus Union of India judgment. Now, another important fact is what was the validity of these electoral bonds. So these electoral bonds are valid for only 15 days. So let's say if I've gone to a bank, and I've issued a particular electoral bond, let's say on 1st of August, on this 1st of August, then I have to give this particular bond to a political party, and that political party has to receive that money before 16th of August. Before 16th of August, obviously, I'm going to subtract the holidays, but in the next 15 working days, I have to complete that particular transaction. Which are the political parties who are eligible to get the amount under the electoral bonds? So remember, only political parties registered with the Election Commission of India and who have secured at least 1% of votes in the last general election. So whatever election took place at the central level or the state level, the political party which wants to have electoral bonds, it should be a registered political party and it should have received at least 1% of the votes polled in the last general election. Okay, so these are some of the important facts regarding electoral bonds. However, this scheme is not that important, but we never know that such kind of question can come up. So you can remember the basic points, because now this particular scheme has been called as unconstitutional. Okay. Moving on to the next news. So again, a particular application has gone to the Supreme Court. A plea has been put up in the Supreme Court where the blood donation guidelines do not allow particular group of people. For example, your transgenders, your gay persons, as well as women sex workers are not allowed to donate blood in India. Now, this petition is asking that these are outdated guidelines. Even developed countries which earlier used to have similar kinds of restrictions have now removed those restrictions. So the guidelines should be updated now, and these people should be allowed to vote. So I thought let's go through how or who are the people who are eligible to donate blood in India, or what are the guidelines. So first thing is that particular person should be healthy, not just physically but mentally also. So he should be an adult, which means he should be above the age of 18 years. Both male and female both can donate their bloods every 3 months. So every 90 days, if you are a healthy individual, then you can go and donate your blood, provided you are above 18. The second requirement is the age requirement. So between 18 to 65 years old persons can donate their blood. Yes, there are certain subcategorization that in this particular case only up to 60 years can be allowed. In certain cases 65 is allowed. In certain cases only 50 is allowed. But in general it is 18 to 65. Third is what should be the hemoglobin level. So it should not be less than 12.5 gram per DI. Next is what is the pulse rate and blood pressure. You do not have to remember the pulse and the blood rate, but pulse rate should be around between 70 and 100, and your blood pressure should be around 80 to 130. Systolic and diastolic, but you should know that normal pulse and blood pressure is required. Again, temperature should be normal, which is a normal body. So I'm going to ask you in the comment box, what is the normal temperature of a human body? What should be the normal temperature? Next, what should be the body weight? So body weight should not be less than 45 kg. Sorry, my apology, it is 45 kg. Weight should not be less than 45 kg. Next, the donor should be in a healthy state of mind and body. And who are the people who are ineligible? So if people at risk of HIV, hepatitis B or C cannot donate blood. And in the bracket, in the guidelines, you will look at the guidelines, this particular term is mentioned, and in the bracket, transgender, gay persons and women sex workers are explicitly or separately mentioned. So the petition has asked that why these kind of conditions are there. These are not the people who are suffering from HIV or hepatitis B or C. So why you are discriminating against them? Because it is not backed by any scientific proof. Nowhere, no scientific study has shown that transgender persons are more susceptible to such kind of diseases or such kind of infections. Moreover, the transgender blood is just like any other blood, so they can also donate, and same is the case with other people also. So you cannot put a blanket ban on donation from these persons if their blood is not good. So whatever screening process is there, by that screening process we can know that if this particular blood is good enough for donation or not. Okay, so these are the blood donation guidelines. Moving on, so I have taken one news from your Indian Express also. So from the explain section, so I have earlier also advised you all students that if you are reading your Indian just your Hindu newspaper, if time and again you find some interesting article in the Indian Express, you should read that also, and at least you can go through the explain section of the Indian Express if you are reading Hindu. If you are reading Indian Express, then sometimes you can go through the Hindu newspaper also. You can look at some important points in the text and context section of the Hindu newspaper also. So in this explain section, the axis of resistance has been explained. And what is this axis of resistance? So axis of resistance is a term which has been created by the newspapers only. And what is this axis of resistance? So this axis of resistance is led by Iran only. It is led by Iran, and it is resisting USA, etc. It is a resistance against USA and Israel, which are trying to destroy Iran. So that's why Iran has created this axis of resistance. And what is this axis of resistance? So it is a group of different political parties and different terrorist organizations which want to resist the US and Israel influence in the Middle East. And which are the main constituents of this particular axis of resistance are? So first is your Hezbollah, which is based in Lebanon. So we have discussed Hezbollah, so you can read this particular thing. Second is your group Hamas. Hamas is the most active or is the most popular group right now because it is in direct fight with Israel since October 7. So Hamas is the second part of axis of resistance. Third is your PIJ or Palestine Islamic Jihad. This is the second largest militant group after Hamas, which is active in West Bank and in Palestine. And fourth is your Houthis. Houthis is again a Jihadi Shia militant group which is active in Yemen. So we have discussed all of these groups separately, but all of these four together along with Iran, 4 plus 1 Iran, constitute the axis of resistance which are trying to push USA and Israel out of the Middle East politics. So this is axis of resistance. Now one more thing which you should know is another term or another grouping known as axis of evil. So this particular term axis of resistance has been derived from the term axis of evil only. So one of the very famous former US president, George W. Bush, who was the president of USA when the 9/11 attacks took place, and he was the president of USA when the US actually attacked Afghanistan and tried to take out Osama bin Laden. So he was a very famous person, and he was very famous for his speeches also. So the former US president used the term axis of evil in 2002, and it used these particular terms to refer to three countries. These were Iran, Iraq and North Korea. And out of these three, USA has already taken action against Iraq at that time. So in 2003, the first country which US attacked after attacking Afghanistan was the country of Iraq, and it dislodged the dictator of Iraq, which was Saddam Hussein. Okay, so out of the three, one has already been taken care of by the USA. These two countries are left. One is Iran and one is North Korea. And as per George W. Bush, these three countries form the axis of evil. And from this term axis of resistance we have also derived. Okay. So student, these were the important news headlines from today's newspaper. So that's it for today. I hope to see you in the next class with the new set of news headlines. Okay. So that's it from my side. Thank you and have a very nice day.